Good morning, afternoon and evening everyone, and welcome to Emergency Video Tuesday. Today we have an emergency that we need to talk about because we have the emergency about the talent system that has been announced for Dragonflight and the first look that we have gotten for Druid and for Death Knight. There is a problem. In the last few days, plenty of people, including myself, many other YouTube content creators, streamers for example, and even you, common man, commented on this, gave out their first impressions on this. However, there's been quite a bit of pushback from a little bit too much of the player base. Even some more well-known popular players like Limit, Max for example, others like JB or Flex, many of these type of players thought it was a good system, and yet there was quite the pushback, quite the amount of complaints from several members of this player base complaining about the fact that this is just a rehashed old talent system. This talent system is just taking away stuff we already have and putting it back into the talent tree of Dragonflight, repurposed into a new feature, right? You're just taking away things I already had and I no longer have by default in Dragonflight. Others are following the same line of complaint, which is this talent tree is just taking some Azerite traits, some Covenant abilities, Soulbind effects, legendaries and tier set bonuses and merging them into one. There is nothing actually new. There is nothing actually proper, innovative about this talent system. So I felt like this was getting a little bit too much out of hand and skewing the perspective of a few too many of our innocent players who don't know any better and need to be enlightened about the situation, because this is, as I said, I am full hopium and copium about this system. This is a great system and by far the best talent systems we have had in the game ever. So I need to come here and defend the why and try to change some of these detractors' opinions, some of these skeptics' opinions about this. Because first of all, talking about the new things, talking about the stuff that we're gonna get that we don't have already, in whatever shape or form you want, whether it's a tier set, whether it's a conduit or something like that. In that note, let me pick up my DK Blood example. For example, the green stuff you see all the way over there is stuff that we currently do not have in Shadowlands. Also, we can move on to Guardian Druid, and these green stuffs are the new things that Guardian Druid is going to have in Dragonflight. And lastly, we have the Balanced Druid that we've done already one time, and these are the new things they can get that they currently do not have. So in terms of variety, in terms of new things, there is already quite a decent amount of stuff, but that's not what matters here. I want you to focus on a different thing. A different thing is that, technically speaking, and let's thank, by the way, Matthias, the owner of Mythic Trap, for having laid out the talents in a clickable version right here. Let's point out that even though many of these things are still the same, even though many of these things are just taken from you right now, yes, technically it is correct, and then repurposed into a Dragonflight 3. What matters is the variety and the options. Let me show you what I mean. There we go. What we have right here is just a mock-up talent tree I made for Blood Death Knight. What you can see is that even though many of these things are things you have already, so things you have right now in Shadowlands in one way or another, one of the main differences is that once you look at this talent tree, for example, can give you access to something like Death Pact, this defensive ability, at the same time as giving you access to something like Voracious or Bloodworms. And if you look at Blood's talents, they are exactly in the same row. Now you can suddenly use at least 2 out of 3 of them. What's more, look at the last row. Purgatory, Red Thirst and Bone Storm. We go back to our talents, here is Bone Storm, here is Purgatory and here is Red Thirst. So yes, you can say, oh well, it's just the same things re-put into a talent tree, nothing new. This is already, for example, catastrophically new for Blood Death Knight. They are able to get way more defensive than they otherwise wouldn't have been able to in this current expansion, in a much more different way, in a much more different style. Not to mention being able to reach something like Soul Reaper, which is currently not even available to a Blood Death Knight. Not only that, they might even be playing with a permanent ghoul right here and then buff it with Enfeeble, making your ghoul tag your enemies with 15% less damage taken to you, which is going to be very cool for a Blood tank. Not only that, you can get and pick up things like a second charge of Blood Boil. You can play with other things like being able to take, for example, one between Blood Drinker and Consumption. Consumption and Blood Drinker are in two different rows, but you can still be able to access, for example, Tombstone and Mark of Blood, which are also in two different rows right here. Not only that, but there are other things you can try out that you couldn't before. Back to the talents. This is Heartbreaker, this is Blood Drinker, and this is Tombstone. Now, Tombstone is going to be over here, Blood Drinker is going to be over here, and Heartbreaker is going to be over here as a talent. You don't even have to choose one or the other. So now you can suddenly pick all three of these talents at once. Again, even though technically speaking these are the same things you had before, the amount of difference of the layout of your spec, the layout of your talents that you can pick is significantly changed compared to Shadowlands, will be significantly changed compared to Shadowlands. And what about this one? Now we have Balanced Druid. Again, many of these things are things you already have. People might complain that, for example, let's bring it up, many of these things are the same that you already have. For example, at the bottom, which is super full of power, it's like Time-Worn Dreambinder, legendary. Honest's Clear Vision, legendary. Balance of All Things, legendary. Adaptive Swarm, New Moon, Fury of Elune, Incarnation, Convoke, Twin Moon, Stellar Flare, Arcanic Pulsar. These are all things you already have, so technically there is nothing new. Technically this is taking things already at your disposal and then just bringing them out in a different form, in a different shape. Despite the fact, never mind the fact, that all of these things are new and not already in the game, even if we account for the complaint of all of these things being retaken, reused, recycled, this is the current situation and the current layout that you can have as a Balanced Druid with this talent. What this shows you is that you can have, first of all, an interrupt for a Balanced Druid instead of having Solar Beam. Now you don't have Solar Beam, you can take away other points here, for example, something extra to get Solar Beam, while at the same time you can still take things like Innervate, which right now you don't have as a Balanced Druid. But what's more important is the Balanced Druid 3 itself. Yes, many of these things are the same of Balanced Druid of right now. However, how many times can you say you have seen a Balanced Druid able to play with Primordial Arcanic Pulsar, Time-Worn Dreambinder, Balance of All Things, and Incarnation all at the same time? The answer is of course you can't, because these are three different legendary powers, none of which is a Covenant one, all at once, plus the choice of your Incarnation. The same goes with plenty of other options. We can go even here to take the Druid talent to make it even more obvious. Here, for example, is Tiger Dash and Renewal. Now you can take Tiger Dash here while still being able to take Renewal. There's also other more powerful things like Soul of the Forest, Star-Lord, and Incarnation. Here is Star-Lord, here is Soul of the Forest, and here is Incarnation, all in different sides and different positions. Not to mention Solstice, Fury of Elune, and New Moon. This time, Fury of Elune and New Moon are in the same talent, but Solstice is all the way down here. The list continues obviously, because you have things like Twin Moons, Stellar Drift, and Stellar Flare. This time, Twin Moons and Stellar Flare have been kept together, but Stellar Drift is all the way over here. Last one, or I'm gonna bore you. You have something like Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement, and Out of the Wild, which once again, here's Mighty Bash, here is Mass Entanglement, and here is Art of the Wild, all three available. So I quite don't get, okay, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. I have seen the points of people complaining about certain features before, even though I did not share their same opinion. Perhaps it was something about removing Titan Forging that some people enjoyed. Perhaps it was about personal loot, right? The forced personal loot that we have right now, that I might have seen their point of view as to why they didn't want the Master Looter anymore. However, I'm really trying hard with this set of complaints against this talent system, and I've just been playing around with just a handful of talents. It's not even all of the classes. There is like 10 classes left and some 30 specs left, and even just these are showing me such a vast possibility for combinations and different talent choices and options for every different situation. Is it a boss fight about AoE? Okay, let's spec into AoE, and we don't need the interrupt, we don't need another interrupt, we don't need a cyclone, we don't need a typhoon. Are we in Mythic Plus? Okay, let's switch back to some more utility. Is this Mythic Plus, but it's not a week where we need Typhoon, or perhaps it's not a week where we need something like Soothe, right? It's not raging, there's nothing getting mad in Mythic Plus, so let's just not put a point in Soothe anymore. You know, the amount of variety this will be able to give you is just so massive, which is why I wanted to try to get my point across to as many people as possible, because I don't want too many of you getting the wrong idea and thinking that this is just another lazy Blizzard recycling all of the things we already have into a different thing, but they're not fooling me. This is just not new content whatsoever. It's just gonna be boring and tedious, and everyone will just copy the same talent setup from the same streamer or whatever, and it's gonna be the same. It will not, okay? Just trust me on this one. It definitely won't be. It's definitely very exciting to play around with these. Perhaps, I don't know. I don't even know why. Perhaps some of you got a little bit bummed that your spec has not been previewed, so you just want to see it, so you're being salty for no reason. But aside from that, I just wanted to try to make it clear to some of the ones who were on the fence on this, or perhaps the ones who are straight up thinking that this is not a very new or even innovative system to put our powers into. You guys, yeah, this is one of those moments where someone should tell you, you guys deserve BFA Corruptions back. You guys deserve Benthic Gear and Legion Titan Forging back, if you think this system right here is not great for character power and for your agency, for the power of your choice to choose what you want to do in the game. It is a great system, so I thought it was worth making another video on it, just to make sure to try to get the point across as best as possible. So, with this being said, please let me guys know, to all of you who are still not convinced by this and still think that there is something not quite right about the talent system, and there are reasons as to why this is not gonna end up being good in Dragonflight, please let me guys know in the comments. I will see if I can sway your mind, your opinion even more. That being said, we can stop now. We can stop for today. Thank you guys for watching the video and for helping to grow the channel, which includes liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel, obviously. This one being a video about the Dragonflight's new talent system, I am going to let everyone who is already on board, everyone who is already thinking this is a great system, you're free to come in and subscribe. What you can also do to support me even more, you can follow me on Twitter in this general direction. I am almost at 1 tweet per day. It's going sweet. And then you can also support me on Patreon, somewhere in this direction. You will get access to my Discord channel as well, which will allow you to go and start some meaningful discussions in there, which I will be sure to contribute to. That being said, thank you guys again. See you guys soon. And in the meantime, I hate it when you think you have the rest of the day in front of you, and then you remember you have to go out to run some errands. Fuck.